Hi folks, and welcome back to my top 100 board games of all time. Ooh, let's get at it. At number 70, this one just had a reprint that came out recently, Cleopatara and the Society of Architects. Now, I have the old edition here, but I absolutely love it. In this game, you are drafting cards, playing those cards to build certain pieces of the Queen's temple, Cleopatra's temple. And as you use the box, you flip the box upside down, you put walls, columns around it, you put tiles, mosaic tiles on top of it, a throne, sphinxes, monuments, you know, all this cool stuff. At the end of the game looks absolutely beautiful. But at the same time, as you're doing this, you cannot avoid gathering corruption from when you draft too many cards, or when you play certain cards can give you extra corruption, but you'll play those to get cheats in the game. And that's very important, because at the end of the game, whoever has the most corruption, the queen kills. And so they're out of the game. So the game's about mitigating how much corruption you take. Everyone's going to be taking corruption, but how much? Now, there is one way to get rid of corruption, and it doesn't happen that much in the game, but every time you build something, you roll these die. Every time the Ankh symbol pulls up, you leave that die over the side. Once all the dice have the Ankh symbol, then you can bid as much coin as you can to get rid of some corruption. However, if you lose the bid, the highest bid, you're going to gain corruption, some more corruption. Oh, I love this game because the reason why you don't want to bid too much is because money is victory points at the end of the game. It is such a wonderful game, tons of strategy. This is the one where you shuffle the deck with some face up and some face down. That way, some cards are a mystery to you. Some piles you're bidding on, you're basically taking 3 piles, or you're building. And some of the piles are mystery cards, some of you know what they are. But you have to take all of them if you pick that row. Absolutely love that mechanic in the game. The new edition, the deluxe version, whoa, looks nice. I offered up for trade 5 games out of my collection just for that one deluxe edition. All games he wanted. Some of it was hurting me, but he politely turned me down. But that deluxe edition does look nice. I can't pay that price tag though. It's way too expensive. But if you want to get the new edition, you basically should. The old edition doesn't look half as nice as the new edition. I think they put some new stuff in it, though I'm not sure. I'm positive they did. I just don't know what it is. But Cleopatra and the Society of Architects, for me, wonderful, wonderful game. Number 69 is Speicherstadt. I don't know how you pronounce this game. Jorvik is the reprint, the red re-themed image with Vikings. But I have the old version by Stefan Feld. Basically, it is a bidding game, kind of an auction game, where you're trying to bid for ships coming in, certain resources to cash them in for points, or you're getting orders that you can get for points. And how it works is you put guys in line, and if you're the only person in line, that thing's worth $1. But the person who's behind you, they can buy it first, but they have to pay $2. Third person in line, they could buy it before both of those two, but they have to pay $3. So it almost becomes a Dutch auction in a way. And sometimes you're moving up the price only because, not because you want it. You don't have to buy it, you can just pass, but you're playing characters there just so someone else won't get it for super cheap. This is a really smart game. I do have the expansion that comes with it, and I think Jorvik comes with the expansion, so get that one. It's a super cheap game. If I'd have known about it at the time, I would have bought that one. No, probably not. I got the metal coins in this one. I love the metal clinkety clink. But just bidding on your certain shipments and goods and contracts is really awesome. You're also trying to get firemen, because every once in a while a fire card's going to come, and whoever has the most firemen is going to benefit from that. A lot to like about this game. Again, it's called Jorvik, the reprint is, and it's super cheap, so definitely check it out, especially if you're a Stefan Feld fan. Number 68 is a game that kind of bounces up and down on my list. Depends on what year it is, I guess. Well, it's King's Abbey. King's Abbey is a beautiful worker placement game where you're trying to build up your monastery, fend off from Vikings at times, and, of course, the darkness every round. So you're scurrying to build up your defenses while at the same time going on crusades. This is dice placement here, and then placing those dice in certain areas to gather resources, to build buildings to help feed your peasants or do something special in the game, generate income of something. It's really neat, and it's so much fun. Play this game all the time. The wooden resource pieces are just beautiful. The game has a lot of strategy to it. A long time ago they announced a expansion, but it's never happening, it seems, and that's sad, because I think this game could use an expansion right now, just because we've kind of gotten used to the base game a little bit. But I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. I told this story during my review, but first time I played it wrong and hated the game. I said, this is so hard of a game, and then realized I was doing something wrong later on when I looked back at the rules. So then bought it, and we've loved it ever since. It's so much fun, because when you go on crusades, you can also get someone else to maybe help you out and split the reward, however you wish it to be. So, and like I said, victory points, a lot of them are had at the end of the game. So even though you may be winning when the game ends, when the in-game points are scored, you could easily be losing at this game. And that's another thing I love about the game. King's Abbey, excellent game. That's why it's on my list at number 68. Number 67 is called Diamonds Club. Diamonds Club is a great little, I don't know what to call this. You're basically paying for these certain squares to either go first next round and receive a little bonus, or you're trying to get ships or gem mines. You're trying to get gems and cashing those gems in for certain places to put on your lawn, gazebos or gardens or trees or something, or hunting, fishing, and bird aviaries or whatnot. And as you're building up your, front yard, or your estate, I should say, you're getting more and more points. Now, there's also some engine building here, because you're also building up your own player board to get certain bonus actions in the game as well. But the cool thing about this is you have these coins you can start with, and sometimes you start with more coins if you've been upgrading your board. But the coins are basically how you can pay for certain spaces and get certain tiles. Going first is very important, because every time you pay a coin next to another coin, you have to not only put one coin on it, but then throw a coin away, because there's one coin next to it. If there are 4 coins surrounding it orthogonally, you're going to have to pay 1 coin there and then 4 other coins. That is a huge move if you want that. And usually no one can afford that, because there's not that much money in the game. So I love that. I love that mechanic about the game. This game obviously didn't come out in the US, and I see a lot of people wanting it, but I guess it's never been given a reprint, and that's sad. It is a super smart game. The pieces look great. The artwork's great. The game ends when you complete whatever you're doing on your estate. There's different ways to score. You can just put a bunch of trees out into your yard, and if you have a certain building upgrade, you're going to get lots of points for those trees. Or if you get hunting, fishing, and an aviary, those are going to count. All 3 of those are count to big points. And you can do that probably 2, or if you really shoot for it, you can do it 3 times in the game, and that would net you some big points too. Or just start getting collections of different fountains, hedges or whatnot, topiaries or whatnot, and that can garner you points as well. Lots of ways to score victory points here. And the board where you're bidding on the little spaces is a bunch of just these strips, and you can flip them back and forth and shuffle them together. So the board is always different each time you play the game, and each round you play, the board is different. And I absolutely love that about this game. Kind of hard to find, but hey, give me a break. The rest of them have been very easy and cheap. Every once in a while I'm going to tell you one that's very rare and it's hard to find, and that's Diamonds Club. Excellent game. At number 66 is the game Gugong. Gugong, you are playing cards, switching out, basically trading out cards on the board and taking actions and maybe sub-actions, whatever's written on that card as well. Your card in your hand must always be higher than the card that you're taking. If not, you may not get to play that action, or if you sacrifice a few things, a few servants, you'll get to take the action. Oh, what a wonderful game. Another game I see selling for cheap, and I think it's just a lot of fun. This did get, I think it's called Panjun, was the expansion. Oh, I'm never playing without Panjun. I absolutely love that, because one of the things you gotta do to be counted as, just count your points at the end, is move up the Emperor's track, which is fairly easy if everyone focuses on it. Everyone will eventually move up the Emperor's track. But what Panjun does that I absolutely love, it tempts you to move down the Emperor's track. Now, why would you ever do that? Because if you do that, I'll let you take this bonus action, or I'll let you do this. And I like how it's tempting you to move down the Emperor's track. Remember, like I said, it's not hard as long as you don't forget about it. But, you know, taking a few steps back, that's a little risky during the game. How many times do you want to do that? I wish more actions would let you move down, you know, more actions were built like that in the game, meaning the more times I wish every bonus action in the expansion made you move down the Emperor's track. But it doesn't. Just a few actions do. I wish they all did. But this is just a great game that, again, several strategies you can put into play, and just about all of them will work. Lovely, lovely game. Gugong, my number 66. Number 65 is the only new game in my collection I'm talking about today, and that is Solenia. Solenia is a game of, well, you're playing these cards around this blimp, sometimes even moving the blimp, and as it moves backwards or forwards, you're eliminating these tiles. It's a modular board that can move up or back, and you're eliminating that tile from the front or the back. And when you do that, any cards that you played earlier for benefits activate one more time, because they're getting removed from the game now, to give you some bigger benefits. Ooh, smart game. You're trying to upgrade your little airship itself by fulfilling certain contracts and sometimes unlocking extra abilities while you're doing that too. This game came out, got a little bit of hype when it first came out early this year, and then just died and got forgotten about. That's why it found a home with me. I bought this game early when everyone was just raving about it online, and then everyone just moved on to the next game, and I was like, no, this is still a wonderful game. I recently played this not but a month or two ago again, and just lovely game. Lovely game. It's another forgotten game that only me will have on my list for you to remember it and to go get you a copy. Solenia, my number 65. At number 64 is the game called Touria. In Touria, everyone is controlling a group of adventurers as they move around the board, and they're trying to create certain actions or do certain actions in the game. Now, how you move around is determined by the 4 castles that are facing you. Each castle tower has 4 different actions on it, and as someone takes that action, they will rotate that castle. So at everyone's turn, they're looking at the board in different ways to see 4 different actions. The players next to me and across from me will have different actions than I will. It's a really smart game for that reason. And as you're moving across the board, you're collecting gems, and you want to get hearts and swords, and you want to get as much things as you can, because eventually you're going to go into the castle. Now, the castle is wonderful because if you hit the bare requirements, you may not make it that far, because once you get the castle, then you have to find the princess, and by doing that, you're just flipping over 1 token at a time. Now, if you have that extra resource on you, you can pay it and continue on. But what a lot of people forget is, hey, I met the bare minimum, I'm going to the castle. Great. So unless you're extremely lucky, every turn is going to be flipping over 1, while everyone else is getting, you know, getting some more items put together. And plus, someone who it's got a great catch-up mechanism, because if someone's taken 3 turns in the castle, I think there's like 9 or 10 of those doors, then basically they've bettered the chances for someone new coming in and guessing which one the princess is behind, which token the princess is behind. And at times, they may have extra resources they can pay, so they can keep flipping doors until they find the princess. It seems like a children's game. It looks like a children's game, and yes, it could be played for families, but I play this with my adult gaming group all the time, and we absolutely love this game. It is just a phenomenal game that does not get old for me. Touria, number 64. All right, folks, time to talk about Queen games once again, and here at 63, Eketorp. Eketorp is a Viking game where you're throwing resources out on the board, then behind a little player shield, you're putting out on your mini map on your own player board, you're putting out how many Vikings you want to go out there and pillage certain resources on the board. Also, though, you could also be putting Vikings on other people's fortresses because you plan to raid them and steal some of their bricks, or leave Vikings in your own home because people are trying to pillage you and you want to be there to fight them off. Oh, love this game. There's a lot of fake and double fake here as you're trying to determine which one is no one going to go for. They're probably not going for that one. I'll go there. And if enough Vikings are there where everyone Viking can take one brick, you're okay. But that rarely happens. And when it doesn't happen, then you got to fight. And when you fight, you basically are playing cards in your hand, highest card wins. So you're thinking, okay, that's kind of dumb. No, because then you have to switch cards with that player. And when you take up your new hand, you may have a bunch of low scoring cards. That's okay. Everyone has one token. It's worth victory points if you keep it. No one ever keeps it because eventually you're going to cash it in, throw in the 4 dud cards you have, if you ever get stuck with dud cards, and then draw 4 more new ones and then really make all your friends nervous because they don't know what those cards are in your hand. That's going to happen to everyone in the game eventually. This game needs a first player token. The box does not come with one, so just grab something because you need to know who first player is. That's very important. But other than that, such a smart game. The last game we played, and I love this, was my favorite Viking game for years because the harder you defeat someone, the longer that Viking will be injured and take to recover. So you won't have all your Vikings. You only have all your Vikings in the first round. After that, you'll always be short on Vikings, and slowly, as those Vikings are healing, you're like, come on, give me some more. I need some more. I need some more Vikings. I need some more help. The game that I ended because I built my fort first. I got some victory points too, but you are not the winner. Then you have to count up the value of those bricks. And I just had all grass bricks. I was the little pig who built his house out of straw. It was fast, quick victory. I thought I had it in the bag. And it turns out that someone who didn't have but just half of their fortress had all the high quality ones, the wood, the sand, the stone. And they beat me bad. With a halfway finished fortress, theirs were way more many points per brick than mine were. But that's how you play the game, right? You go where I knew people weren't going to get the grass bricks. I knew I could get them uncontested most times. And as long as I could fend off my fortress from anyone, because people can see when you're about to finish your fort, so they'll come raid you. But it is and there's 3 different ways to raid someone, raid a fortress, and that's important too, because if 2 people pick the same way to raid you, they have to fight first, which is really going to injure them, which is going to help you. This is just a great game. I don't know, it used to go for super cheap, then it went for super expensive, and I don't know what the price is on this, but if you can find it, this is another great Queen games that Queen game I always love. So Eketorp, my number, I don't know where we are now, 63. And number 62 is a game from Uwe Rosenberg. It is called At the Gates of Loyang. This you are, I believe, a Chinese farmer, and you are growing crops. Every turn you're uncovering a new field and hopefully planting some vegetables there so you can sell to your long-term customers that you're going to fill orders through for the next couple of rounds, or your short-term one-off customers who pay a lot, but they're only there once, and it's kind of an inconvenience to get them all their goods because they want 3 of a different kind. And if you have more than one regular customer, you may not be able to provide for them for a while. You're also drafting. The way you draft cards here is great. You have to discard 1. And then before you cannot keep but only 1 card in your hand when you decide to pick a card. So it makes you, if you have 2 cards in your hand you really like, you got to take a risk and put 1 on the table and hope no one wants it, so you can discard the rest of your cards and grab that card back. But so many times that happens, or someone is stuck and they didn't, they've got 1 card to choose from, like, no, I want the 2 in my hand. You can't keep the 2 in your hand, you only keep 1. I love that about the game. And of course, in this game, hilariously, money does buy happiness. So the most money you have, you're basically buying that to go up the steps. And even though I don't think I've seen anyone get to the very top step, that may have happened in our last game now that I think about it, but it is very hard to get to the top of those steps. Either way though, you will start making money after a while. You'll be hurting for the longest time, and sometimes you will take out loans too because you will be hurting on money. But eventually, if you get your farming right, this game is going to sing, and you're going to start selling to all sorts of, and there's extra cards in there that can help you do different things in the game, like sell to another person and another player's market, which is really an awesome thing to do if you can pull it off. Uwe Rosenberg, not a big fan of his games, but At the Gates of Loyang, to me, is a wonderful, wonderful game. Earlier this year, or actually a few weeks ago, I got the game Keyrolt, or Raycolt, I think, from him. I can't remember what the name was. And it's basically the same thing as At the Gates of Loyang, just a little bit different. I didn't like it as much, so I gave it to a friend of mine because At the Gates of Loyang, for me, is a better game and a game that I will always love. And finally, at number 61 is Expedition Northwest Passage. Whew, this is a beautiful looking game where you have a sled and a ship, and you are moving, cutting across the Northwest Passage, trying to get there first to get some big victory points and maybe get back to Greenland or wherever to get some more victory points. But along the way, you're building these icebergs, and completing icebergs can also get you points. Moving your ship farther down and discovering new items across the board. The further out you go, the more victory points they are when you discover them. And you get victory points at the end depending on what you've collected. The game has a historical premise, which I absolutely love, and they talk about the premise. Each thing that's in the game is kind of true to the actual story of what went on when they were trying to explore a passage, the Northwest Passage. And the game has a sundial, kind of a round tracker that moves around the board. The top half is yellow, the bottom half is blue. Whatever's below that blue line, that blue piece, is all frozen. Your ship is stuck there. So you have to send out your sled, which at this point can travel over water too. So you'll be splitting your crew eventually into ship and sled. Now, when summer comes again, your people on the sled, they're stuck on whatever iceberg they're at, but your ship can start moving again. Now, there's certain areas on the board that freeze a lot, so that you may want to keep your sled up north and your ship down south, because those places won't freeze as much. But the game is so thematic, it's so awesome. There's a little bit of AP problem when placing a iceberg tile to make sure it matches up to everything else. That's a little bit tricky, but other than that, small price to pay for such a great game. The wooden bits are polished, so they feel really awesome too. The bag is just nice and hefty. Oh man, the quality of this game, the artwork of this game, and the actual game flow of this game is fantastic. Well worth your time. All right, folks, that's it for now. So I'll see you next time with 10 more games.